Everybody, it's Angela, and today I am going to do a two-page spread using these two photos. And these are ones that my stepdaughter took a picture of the grandbaby every month, and I then took those photos into Photoshop and pulled the pictures out and made these progressions. And this one's of Allison. And then when she had her second daughter, I think she got a little overwhelmed after about 8 months. The photos kind of stopped. And so these last 4 photos, I just found a photo from each of those months and then took the picture of Emma out of it just so that I could finish off the progression. So even though they weren't taken specifically for her picture of the month photo shoot, I was able to finish the progression because, you know, the second child never gets as many photos. And I am a second child myself, so, you know, I've got to take care of Emma and make sure she gets plenty of photos. So I went ahead and finished the progressions, and I wanted to do a 2-page spread facing pages. And I'm looking through my Distress Stains by Tim Holtz and something that will match not only the photos, but these papers, which are the Prima Heaven Sent papers. And I have the ephemera pack, the cards, like the journaling cards, and a paper pad. And so I pull out 3 distress stains, a purple, a pink, and then kind of a gray color, a bluey gray. And I just spray a little bit of water onto these 2 white pieces of watercolor paper. And I'm just going to use the packaging technique. And I start with this kind of purpley color first. And I go ahead and put those down, and I get to the kind of bluish gray, which I think was like the weathered wood, and I chicken out because it just looks too dark. And so I kind of chicken out and don't actually put the bluish color on. And you'll see me, I put it on the packaging, and then it just looked so dark that, yeah, I got scared. And so I do this, and oh, here's the blue color, and I look at it and I think, oh my gosh, that looks so dark. And so I put it on a scrap piece, and I'm like, nope. So I don't go ahead and use that. I put a little bit more of the purple on here, and at one point I kind of scratch it with my fingernails, which was a bad idea. So it's good to press like I'm doing here, but you'll see in a second when I go kind of towards the middle of the 2 pages, I run my fingernails against it right there, which was dumb because it made those lines in there. And so I put some more on there to try to cover that up, and it doesn't quite go away, but luckily it's in the center where I had planned on putting my photos anyhow, so I figure it'll get covered up. But yeah, I'd never had that happen before, so I don't know what I was thinking. So anyhow, I bring in my photos, and I decide I don't want them to just kind of float there. They do need a little bit of a mat. So I'm going to the Heaven Sent collection and pulling out some paper. And in the Heaven Sent collection, there's quite a few pieces of the same paper. I don't know if there's 3 or 4 of each sheet in the collection. So I know it's going to kill some people that I'm going to cover up the illustration on this piece. But there's actually a lot of copies of it, and in the journaling cards and ephemera, there's even more of the same couple images. So I actually would have liked it if they would have included more different images instead of so many of the same, like 4 images that they used over and over in this collection. But I do love the collection, and I plan on doing a baby album with it, but there's just so much of it, that so many pieces of the same sheets of paper that I won't need all of it for an album. So I figured I was safe to do a few layouts as well. And because I only have that one little ephemera pack, I have to make a lot of my embellishments. And so you'll see here, I'll show you all the die cuts that I use to make my embellishments. But right now I'm going to loosely do my design from the upper left hand corner to the bottom right, following that band of color that I put down with the distress stain. And to kind of frame that in, I'm going to put a border on the upper left and the bottom right, and I'm going to use this text print with the floral on it to do part of my border. And I'm going to use this punch. I believe this is by EK Success. It's just a scallop border punch. And I just love scallops on baby pages. It just, I don't know, it just seems to work. So I'm going to go ahead and punch that. And I think this text paper is one of my favorites out of this whole collection. It's just so soft and pretty. So I'm going to do 2 pieces of that. And then I was afraid it was going to get a little bit too monochromatic, and I did want to bring some of that tealy blue color in that's in the Prima collection. So I'm going to do another stripe behind those scallops of the kind of tealy blue color. So I'm going to go back to the paper pad and find the sheet here. I'm looking through, and there it is, and it's another one where I know that other side is so beautiful, but it's the only paper in that collection that has a big piece of that solid blue teal. So I'm just cutting a couple strips of that at my paper trimmer, and I'll bring those in. And I'm sorry if this whole layout isn't always in frame. I tried to keep watching, but it was hard with a double page spread. So I'm quickly just kind of showing you, I pulled out every die I had that had some flowers in it, or some sprigs, or a butterfly, or a heart, and I just used those to cut a bunch of pieces out of this collection. And then I also fussy cut these couple images out of the collection as well. So these flowers are die cuts. The hot air balloon, the little bear, and the bunny are fussy cut. And I'm just going to follow that band of ink color that I put down with a whole bunch of embellishments. It's going to be somewhat embellishment heavy, and that's why I chose to put it on the white paper, just so it wouldn't get too busy with the patterned paper and the amount of embellishments that I wanted to put on it. So I'm just kind of laying a few of them out to get an idea if this is what I want to do. And again, I apologize that that left-hand side is kind of off the screen. I keep moving the pages around to try to get what I'm working on in frame as much as possible. But yeah, it was a little awkward, but having 2 pages in here, but it was kind of nice to be able to work with these large photos, and essentially you're getting kind of like 12 photos on each page, because I'm doing 12 full months in the one photo. So it was kind of nice to be able to do not only a double page spread, but then have 12 baby pictures on each page. So now I am off looking for some stamps, and these are the Glitz Finley stamps, and I knew I had some that had like the months of the year and kind of that little timeline, which kind of goes along with my theme. And I love those Finley stamps. I only got that one. There was like several sets of those boxed tin stamps that came out around the same time, and I love those things, and this was the only one I ever found on sale, and I went ahead and bought it. But I don't see many people using them in their videos, but I really love them. I wish I could find more of the tins, because they're a really good quality stamp. So I'm just inking it up with a really light pink, and I don't know as if you'll be able to even see it on the screen, just because of the contrast here. But in real life you can see it within the distress stain, just some light stamping of the timeline and a few of the months of the year and stuff that'll be above and below the photo. Just adds a little bit more interest into that background. So I'm bringing my photo, each one's going to touch the inside edge of the double page spread, and then I'm just layering my 2 border pieces and putting those on the page as well. And then the border strip was just a little bit longer than the watercolor paper, so I do have to kind of trim just a little tiny bit off there on the edge. And then I'm going to put that bunny down in the bottom right because even though it's kind of facing off the page, his eyes are kind of looking back into the page. So he was the best choice for that corner versus that little bear who is both facing and kind of looking to the right. So I put him kind of more in the center. And that just brings a little more of that darker pink and that blue and a little bit of the yellow to that bottom corner. And then to soften the edges up of the photo, I'm going to use some of those little sprigs. I'm going to layer up some of these flowers. I also have a butterfly there. And I don't know if you could tell, but I did put that bunny up on some foam tape, just the 3M, which is kind of a not very thick foam tape. And I'm heating up my glue gun. I'm going to use that for a lot of these flowers. I like the kind of dimension sometimes that a glue gun will give. So I'm probably heating that up and then just kind of seeing what else I want to layer in here. So there I go and put one flower that's kind of peeking out from behind the bunny that's glued flat to the page. Some of these other flowers, I'm just kind of rolling over the end of my eraser just to cup the flowers a little bit and make them a little more dimensional. This one too is a flower where you can kind of lift the petals up on the inside. So I'm just kind of lifting those. And again, that flower I'm sticking straight to the paper underneath the bunny, and then this one I'm kind of go over the top of the rabbit die cut. And that way it gives a little extra texture and dimension. And I love using my glue gun. I hate all those glue strands though, but I have to just, kind of clean those up later. I put that heart on top of that and then put this butterfly in there, and I just glue the center of the butterfly and kind of leave his wings up. And there I am trying to remove some of those glue strands, so I'm kind of liking that. And then I'm going to move to this side, and it's going to go kind of from this bottom corner of Emma's photo kind of up into Allison's photo. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have done this cluster here at the top corner of Emma's photo instead of the bottom corner, so that this right side layout would stand alone a little better on its own design-wise. I mean, it looks okay in the end, but I think I probably would have liked it better if that cluster had been at the top of the photo, but So of course I'm already part the way through it, and then I realized I'd like to put some thread on there. So I just lifted the rabbit up, and luckily that 3M isn't super sticky, that foam tape, so I was able to just lift that up and slide some of the pink thread underneath. And then I'm also going to look through these ephemera die cut pieces that came with the collection just to see if there's anything I want to tuck in. And I love that little clock, since we're kind of talking about time and the months. This is kind of a progression photo. I want to go ahead and put that in there. And then they also have some that are kind of on vellum. So I like these flowers. They kind of add a pop of color. So I think I cut them in half and use them in a couple different places here. So it's hard once you use a glue gun to slide stuff underneath, but I was able to get that clock to kind of slip underneath there. And then that also holds that little piece of vellum sticking out. So I'm liking that cluster, but you can see everything on that side is a little bit bottom heavy. Everything's to the bottom. So like I said, I wish I would have put the cluster I just made with the clock at the top of the photo to do my 3 clusters. But as a double page spread, they really work well together. So Yeah, so I don't know if doing it different would have been better or not, but I do love the way it turned out. So there I just put the border for this page at the top. And then I'm going to kind of stagger this photo up a little higher. And then that hot air balloon is going to go at the top of this one, since hot air balloons are usually floating up in the sky. So I want to make sure that that image is up at the top. And it kind of ties the photo to the border. And again, I'm using some of that dimensional foam tape on there. And I'm remembering this time to put the thread under before I get too much farther. So I'm liking that. It just helps soften those edges. And then I'm going to put the little bear there, and then this cluster is going to kind of cascade down into the cluster on Emma's side, so that they kind of look like they belong together. And again, I'm just pulling out a bunch of these flower die cuts that I had done earlier on my die cut machine. And I love that I have so many little flowers in various die cut collections, because what I do is I take out every single flower I have and I just fill a piece of paper with the die cuts and run them through, so I can get, like 15 flowers in one pass, on the Big Shot. So that works out good. When you have a lot of little flower dies, you can just do a whole bunch of them all at once. So now I'm just looking through to put a few more sprigs to kind of match what I had done on the other side. Again, I'm just kind of putting some of that tealy blue color down, and then making sure that I have, some of the pinks and colors spread evenly throughout. And this bear I didn't put up on the foam tape, I just glued him directly down. And I'm including some things up on top of the hot air balloon, and then some things kind of below, just to kind of incorporate everything together. And then I do a couple of the free floating little tiny flowers that make it kind of like splatters or sequins or enamel dots. You kind of just spread the flowers around and scatter those throughout. So I'm really liking how this is turning out, and I want to add a little bit of bling and cover up. Some of those flower dies have a little tiny hole in the center where you could put a brad through or something like that. And so I want to include something on the top of the flowers. So I go ahead and just grab some sequins out of my stash. And the sequins are what I'm going to use to cover up the center of those flowers. And I'm just searching through those ephemera packs again, just seeing if there's any last little touches I want to add into these clusters here before I go on. And I think about putting a few more flowers, or a few more of those vellum flowers, but I decide against it. So I'm really liking how this is going. I love the soft colors. And so I go ahead just to put this bling on here. So that's my thing of sequins, and I'm just digging through there. I have some loose ones in the bottom that would work. So I'm just grabbing out some that are kind of translucent, some that are kind of pink color and peachy color, and I put some of those in the middle of each of them. And I think that I'm done at this point, but you know what? It was bothering me how this page was so bottom heavy, and it needed something up above the photo. And so I was like, and that one stands more on its own a little better. So I decide to go back and add a title to this double page spread and add it above Emma's photo. So I just pick these kind of cloth thickers, and I spell out the words 1 year. And I really like that they're soft, but it kind of helps this stand on its own a little better, having that above there. And so I just want to nestle it a little more into that right hand cluster, and they weren't super sticky, so I figure I better just add a little bit of glue on them now, just to make sure that they stick. And I really love how those thickers just match in, and you know, it kind of tells the story of both these photos, and it helps that balance that side just that little bit better. So I was a lot happier once I put the 1 year title on there. And then after I do that, then I call this finished. So again, yeah, I really love how it turned out in all the pretty soft colors. And this will be great for the baby album. And that is my finished double page spread. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions on anything or on any of the supplies that I use, just let me know down below. And I will see you in the next video. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.